What seemed like an eternity, at least for our show anyways, the Toronto Maple Leafs get a game day. We get a game day on the Real Kyper and Bourne show. Welcome aboard. It's our Leaf Hour edition. We are live on Sportsnet 590 The Fan, Sportsnet 360, and Sportsnet Plus. Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sammy McKee, Derek Brandeo, Jake the Snake Schultz with you the next 2 hours. We'll get a little Wendel Clark, Toronto Maple Leaf legend, in about 30 minutes. Top of the hour, we go national, Blake Wheeler, who's done a nice job on Hockey Night in Canada. He'll join us as well. And Jason Bukala, Pro Hockey Group and Sportsnet, of course, former NHL scout, will take us home. Mm-hmm. In the meantime, we are set for a Game 5 for the Toronto Maple Leafs. The last 20 years, Game 5s have not been kind to the Toronto Maple Leafs. 1-5 in Game 5s.
At home.
At home.
Game
two
5s
of them,
at home.
2 of them overtime losses to Florida in 2023, the Montreal Canadiens in 2021. All right. Do we start with Sammy or do we just go to you first?
No, Sammy.
What do you want to know?
5s.
So
Energy.
I think, a lot of people have asked me today how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
Like a lot.
Yeah.
Like everybody
Like a weird amount.
Everyone upstairs, everybody I run into, texts, and I haven't been able to answer. Mm-hmm. I think I'm feeling
it.
I'm feeling.
I actually, since our show started like 2 minutes ago, I got a little nervous.
I'm definitely uneasy. There's a uncertainty clearly, but listen, boys, this is why we slug through November and December and do games on a Tuesday night in February against the Flyers. This is why you slug through it to get to Game 5 of the second round, 2-2 against the defending Stanley Cup champions. This is what you do it for, boys.
We now go live to Herb Brooks.
Tonight's the night.
I get that, and it's something that you could say year after year about certain games in the playoffs. This one has a much bigger dynamic for me.
Okay.
Yeah. And outside of maybe the biggest game of the franchise's last 25 years, quarter of a century.
Whoa.
Biggest game
really
in the last 25 years for me. And it's more than just winning or losing. It's the potential of what a loss means. Moving forward, can they win 2 in a row? Do they win or lose the series? I'm starting to get into implications if they lose the series, what things look like after that. That's where I'm going with this.
Shocker.
With this game tonight.
Shocker, that's what you're going to.
Yeah.
What if they lose? Yeah, what if they win?
Okay.
What if they win?
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Great. But
what if they lose?
We are Game 5, Game 6, Game 7 now on fork in the road kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Not just for the series, but potentially what this could look like for the next 10 years out of the Toronto Maple Leafs. That's why I'm feeling it. Put it that way.
It's massive. But what you're talking about is Mitch Marner. And that's fine.
No.
I'm not saying that.
No.
Listen,
I'm going bigger than that.
Okay.
Bigger.
Like you think the people making decisions could be involved.
Brendan Shanahan.
If you lose in round 2 to the defending Cup champions, you think that's considered bad failure?
Yeah.
Yeah? What about Game 7? What about if it's Game 7 in overtime?
If you asked me 2 years ago when they lost to them in the second round, you had 2 years to get ready to play them and beat them. Mm-hmm. You got to get past them, JB.
Yeah.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts that they have to get past Florida to continue the belief that this is trending in the right direction. If it doesn't, then it's time to completely look in the mirror.
And, I have thoughts on what that domino could look like, if all of a sudden things were different up top and who would want to not keep Marner and yada, yada. But I think the point is that you have massive implications for failure and massive implications with success here.
Before we get into big picture stuff, where are you tonight? To me, it's a must win. I don't see them losing tonight and winning 2 in a row. So you tell me, is tonight a must-win? Is it not a must-win? Can you still see them losing tonight and winning the series?
Well,
I can.
I think Game 5 of a second-round Stanley Cup playoff game where it's tied 2-2 is pretty close to a must-win. Yeah, that you want to win the game, but you're not out of the series. You still have a chance to win. Clearly, they may not win 2 in a row, but they won 2 in a row to start the series. Like, listen,
Sammy,
it's a massive game. I understand
it's
that.
a yes or no question.
Yes, okay.
They lose tonight. You're telling me they could still win the series.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't have that.
Yep.
But he could be right, and of course I can be wrong.
I'm with Sam on that, but I think it's safe to say that you don't want to find out.
Yeah, 100%. You'd rather not go down that path.
It
It
is. There's a lot hanging in the balance.
A lot through the Shanahan era, a lot of disappointments through the Marner, Matthews, Tavares, Nylander era. Everybody waits for the big game for them to get over the hump. To me, this is the big one. This is the one that could maybe cancel the regrettable loss in Game 3.
You chalk that up at all to them losing their starting goalie? Would you be able to give them a pass at all? The Leafs go, Stolarz got knocked out. No. Okay.
No. I think Wall gave you a chance to win last game. I'm betting that he'll give him another great chance to win tonight.
Yep.
So I exclude the goaltending issues moving forward here.
All right.
Well, so I think there are 2 separate conversations, and the big picture stuff is definitely one. But, I think like you represent a sort of part of the Leaf fandom where I think people are, you can never really just talk about the game. You always have to zoom out with the Marner conversations and what happens after this. And that's kind of been a thing with this whole era of hockey. Like,
and unity, chemistry, great skill.
Is it, is this the last year, a last dance kind of thing? And it's felt like that for 4 years, right? Where it's been like, oh, if they lose here, the coach is gone, Marner's gone, Nylander's gone, the president's gone, whatever's gone. But I think to your point, for the first time, this might actually be the last dance. This might actually be the time.
I don't even think that was debatable.
But we debated Kyper after every time they lost.
I know.
That nobody would be back.
And that's on ownership, whatever that meant when it was Bell and Rogers above, and that was their decision. I don't think that they could keep status quo if they find a way to lose this series. So, I mean, again, I don't, maybe way too early to even be talking about this, but just to bring it back, that's based on me, the results of as early as tonight. Could dictate all of that.
A great hockey analyst I once knew once said to me about these sort of games, I got to see how it looks. That's you, by the way. I got to see how it looks. Do they go down like mice without a fight? Are these great games where they're banging and at the net and they're going to overtime? I got to see how it looks.
But I'm past that.
Okay.
At this stage with this group and the decision makers and their roster and the key guys involved, you can only you only have one last crack at seeing how it looks. Like if they go down with a fight, let's all bring them back and try again next year. No, that's not happening. We know that. And by the way, we know that one major player is out there that in all probability, if they lose, Mitch Marner will not come back. So that alone will give it a different look for sure, but there might have to be more decisions made beyond just what the Leafs will look like next year if Marner's not back.
Can we talk about, so we've talked about what would happen if they lose tonight.
Yeah.
What happens if they win tonight?
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that angle.
Yeah, I think, I'm not sure anybody's going to win 2 in a row here. So I think it gives them the best chance to win the series tonight and bring it back home for Game 7. But if Wall can go down there again with a chance to close it out, there's also the possibility. But for me, it's almost a guaranteed 7. I don't see any team winning 2 in a row in this best of 3.
Yeah. It's the best period the Leafs have played. I think we said this season at one point was Game 2, first period, where they came out on the front foot. They came and they hit and they had the puck and they had the chances. They had the lead. And, from then on, Florida, they basically battened down the hatches, and Florida did their whole storm thing, didn't quite get back. But I don't think anything less than that effort. And now the other piece that, let me finish that. I don't think anything less than that effort is going to be good enough tonight.
Mm-hmm.
The other piece of that is that Florida has a say, as we've said before, and this is a good hockey team. This team in these spots over the past 2 playoff runs has been, I don't want to say unbeatable, but as tight defensively, as hard to get through, as good as any team we've seen, which is why I think it's going to be low scoring. And I know we have some Maurice, but he's confident heading into tonight, right? Like
Maurice?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we do clip number 4 there on his team heading into tonight?
Absolutely, we can.
Let's do that. Paul Maurice, clip 4.
This is where we're supposed to be. This is the setup is exactly the Ranger game. Right, we were down in the series, came back, went into New York. It's that harnessing that excitement about it. Right, that's kind of how we're moving around each other today.
They've been here before, right? They're the experienced team who should feel like they know that we can win these games.
And this is what they did he's talking about the conference finals last year, where the Rangers win both the games, the first 2 games, then they tie it, and then it's the same situation where they won 4 in a row.
And it just you got a Craig Berube that is a comparable, or do we just have that discussion on what he would be telling his group?
On his team's mindset?
Sure, let's do that.
It's very simple. Clip 2, please.
Good, just normal throughout the playoffs. Business-like,
My guy.
ready to go. Looking forward to the challenge tonight. Excited to play. Thought our practice was really good yesterday. Guys are in a great frame of mind, and we understand what type of game it's going to be, and got to go out and execute.
How awesome.
God, I hope he's more motivating than that for the guys inside the room.
Yeah. But I like that it's like, it's not panic or we never at their best.
It's
It's like
it's not.
there's a time where you can ramp it up a little bit and all that. But
Yeah, and I hope it kind of revolves around, boys, like every punch in the mouth that we've had the last 8 years was built so we could win tonight's game. Okay, every heartache, every miserable milk carton picture you saw of yourself or your teammate over the years was to get to this point, to get us over the hump. This is ours tonight, okay? It's not theirs. As Herb Brooks said, they had their chance. They had their opportunities. It's our turn now. And that's the buildup. The buildup is that they've gone through a lot here to get to this point once again, and it's not going to be a lost opportunity.
they have suffered the slings and arrows. These guys have been through it. And, you hope it's like, okay, you got a fresh chance against a good team on home ice. This is an opportunity.
Can I ask you about what you just said there, though, Kip? Like, he's been so hesitant to even mention years past where, like, I wasn't here. I don't really know. Like, do you think he's actually going to bring that up before Game 5? Be like, hey, remember all the times that you guys have choked in these losers, choked in this exact spot? Don't choke this time, chokers.
As you're standing
He's
on
like,
the 3-footer.
I think there's ways of
harnessing that energy.
it's the obvious. It's stating the obvious, Sammy, and I don't even think he needed to be here.
Yeah,
I know.
I'm just saying.
You inherit it, to be honest with you. But it's not about focusing on the past failures. It's what did you learn to get to this point? That's all you need to. And I'm sure either Berube's done it, maybe Brendan Shanahan's done it, somebody, a psychologist that they work with. I don't know.
Yeah.
But there has to be a feeling of, we went through it because we were supposed to go through it the last 8 years, and now's our moment.
Yeah.
Those were life lessons. There were hockey lessons, sports lessons. Call it whatever you want, but it's to get to this point so we can get over and move forward here. And that's the belief that they have to have going into these last 2 games.
How much though, do you think it's on the coach? Like, how much does a coach need to say? So you won the Calder Cup as well, right?
I
Stanley
did,
Cup,
yeah.
Calder Cup. In junior, you guys had some success, I presume.
Lost Game 7 in a final
Oh, sorry to bring that up.
Whoopsies.
to the Oshawa Generals.
The Jennies, gotcha.
But you've been through these moments.
Yeah.
You've been at the practice. You've been at the rink. I had won titles at different levels. You can feel it. It's different at the rink, at the day, at morning skate. There's a different energy. It's not really a spot you need the coach or I understand that he's going to want to come in and give you a couple of words or whatever. But this, I don't feel like it needs a rah spot.
It's such a individual thing.
I agree with that, yeah.
It's nice though if you have someone, either a leader in the room or a coach or something. I'm telling you, it works. It depends on how it's presented, the choice words. It can work, JB, no matter how long you've been around or how experienced that you are. It is really nice and comforting to lean up to somebody and say, you know what, I believe you. Yes,
Well said.
I believe you.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
even if
you
I
have
had a
to
seed of
believe
doubt,
Berube.
you're making me feel better. You are capturing this moment better than what's going on in my head. And instead of overthinking, I'll just listen
follow
to
you.
you. I'll just follow you. I'll just listen to you. And it's true leadership.
Yeah.
And it can come from management. It can come from a few players in the room. It can come up unexpectedly. I don't know. Does Benoit come up and motivate guys today and say, hey, listen, you know what? The next one against Sam Reinhart, boys, he ain't getting up. And you're like, oh man, that guy's ready to play.
A lot of it.
I better be ready to play too.
The one
He's
thing
ready.
I do believe with this team is a lot of what you're saying is I believe you. I trust you. That vibe that I believe that the success we've built here over this season is real. And I think that they do. And I think a lot of that is Craig Berube and the tone and they just can trust that they're good.
It's got to be real, though. It can't be like phony. It can't be by someone that you don't necessarily trust.
You don't need Bobby McMahon to give an Al Pacino speech pregame.
I think
The game inches.
I think a game like tonight.
Man, popping one in tonight there, man.
Hey, Bobby, shoot it in.
I think a game like tonight can show us how close they are together.
Yeah.
And I think at times in the past 8 tries that they've been in the playoffs, they haven't presented as a close-knit team that at times they told us they were, because that is the proof in the pudding. It's not what you say in the room, oh, we're really close, we're tight, we go to movies together, we go out for dinners on the road. No. This on the ice is where you show how close you are together, because there are still times when Domi goes and hit Barkov, you see 4 or 5 guys like a pack of wolves, right? Like Florida shows all the time how close they are, okay? And not a lot of Tampa, we've seen Tampa at times. They're Stanley Cup champions, though, boys. And I'm not saying the Leafs have to go all 5 of them and go, in a scrum constantly, but you can tell teams that are close. And tonight they have an opportunity to show everybody how close of a team they are.
Yeah. The other side of that, not to pour any water on it, but just like, the Vancouver Canucks, when they're winning a lot of games and they're bad, they don't gel in the room, but you win, everyone gets along. You win some games, you score a couple of goals, it's a lot easier for everyone to get along. This Panthers team is still 22-0 when they're leading after the first and 15-0 when they're leading after the second, or flip that, whichever. My point is the start matters. Everyone's energy, belief in each other, all that. They need a good first period, ideally the first goal, and then I'm going to feel really good about things. But until they have that, boy.
And to your point about the sticking out, like they were way better this year than they've ever been in terms of sticking up
No
for each
question.
other and
No
being
question.
in scrums. Like
I
there's no comparison.
I can't wait to talk to Wendel about that, because he would know that better than anybody.
Yeah. And they've really, they've showed much more willingness to get into
Yes.
scrums and stick up for each other.
Yes.
But listen, it's hard to compare anybody to Florida, because what they have is unique. What they've built and what they're able to do with, like, they're a greasy bunch of rats that love fighting for each other and will do whatever it takes and at least need to get there. So
It's tough to play what everyone universally believes to be the best playoff-built team in Florida. They're
Correct.
built for this.
But what excites you about that,
The Leafs can hang.
the Leafs have been able to hang. They've been in all the games except game 4 where it was a 1-goal game, but it never really felt like it was a 1-goal game for long stretches. What makes you excited about being a Leaf fan? What makes you excited about this? If you could ever find a way to get through this team, if you could ever find a way to win 2 of the next 3 games, you really start dreaming.
Well, because whoever you play next, you're like, we know we can play. We play tougher team than this.
Carolina's a great team, and they're up 3-1, right? Like, listen, the Western Conference, if you ever got to the final, that's a different story. Both those teams, any of the teams that come out of there will be excellent.
You don't know what it's going to look like
No,
4
that's what I
weeks
mean.
from now.
That's
Who's
what I mean.
in, who's
That's
out,
true.
who's hurt,
By
who's
then, those
not.
teams
I get
can
it.
be a
Rantanen
shell of
twists his
themselves.
knee, and Dallas is
To your point,
right.
To your point about Florida and sticking up for themselves and look like the Leafs can just find a little bit of that in these next few games and get by them, man.
Correct.
Then there'll be some real conversations.
With Sam, this is the answer to the question that you started this off with. What happens if they win? It's that they're suddenly the team that took down the Stanley Cup champions, that feels like they can handle any amount of physicality that a team wants to bring, that has proven they can go through the muck and come out the other side. All of a sudden you're going, yeah, all of a sudden you believe.
Fork in the road tonight, boys.
So the swing for tonight,
fork in the road,
or the next couple of games anyway.
Fork in the road. Can they
jeez.
win a Game 7 on home ice against Florida Panthers? Whoo boy.
Lineup decisions. We talked about those the last few days. I want to go to Craig Berube before we discuss.
This is the first one is so funny.
All right.
Okay, clip 1 on lineup changes.
Game time decisions. We got decisions. So it was an optional skate this morning, and we got some decisions to make.
Camp off the ice this morning?
Yep, just an optional skate. Game time decisions. So they either go out, they don't go out, and we'll make decisions at game time.
Okay, now let's spin it right to Paul Maurice, who's also talking about making changes to his lineup. Clip 1.
I have both fists going in, yeah. Clip 1.
The advantage to having him come in is he can play all 3 forward positions, which
Both
gives us some options on either Nosek returning to the left wing with Barkov and Reinhart like we did the last 15 minutes of the third. I can move him over to the right as well. So there's lots of versatility there for us. He's got some experience. And when we bring guys in from the outside, they've had big impacts for us. They've been critical. I think a part of that is they're never really on the outside, right? They're all part of the chirping and the practicing and all the things that go on. They feel like they're a part of it. So everybody's pretty excited for them. Big change of philosophy in terms of deep roster or making changes and feeling that energy. Paul Maurice he's coming off a huge win, and he's changing his lineup.
Well, I mean,
Rodriguez is out.
yeah, Rodriguez is out. So Boakfist is going.
Do we think Rodriguez is just out because they want him out? Like he hasn't.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah, he's not playing.
He's not. Oh, so some damage was done then.
Yeah.
Well, yes or no. You know, I think
He was at morning skate today. They had a long conversation. They were seen talking on the ice. So
9 games played, no goals, 3 assists, -2 for Rodriguez. You know,
he feels like one of their guys. He plays up and down the lineup. Like, I don't know. I would be surprised if he was a healthy scratch.
I also would be surprised if he was a healthy scratch. In fact, he almost.
Listen, even some of these guys are at 60 or 70%, and they're playing.
Yeah, but maybe
I think
Rodriguez
at
could
2-2,
go.
I think 2-2. It's a reset for him. He'll go right back to him in Game 6.
Of course he will.
Right?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Boakvist is a guy that when he's in, they used him 403. I think the last game he played.
Yeah.
And I noticed him once. He was fast, and they're like, "Nah, we don't need him." So, what do we think?
Leafs.
Camp?
Leafs on changes.
Yeah.
How much would you push right now if you're part of that coaching staff, JB?
Yeah, I got
How hard?
Yarn Croc. I push really hard. Yarn Croc out Camp in. Camp can take his spot on the PK, which is pretty much all Yarn Croc's value at this point. Longer, defends. I don't think that's a tough decision. You're not giving up any offense. You know, Yarn Croc no longer shoots it in the net.
I think
I'm sold on that.
Okay.
I
good job.
think Camp has 3 or 4 more playoff goals than Yarncroft.
Is that right? Yeah.
So
Like he at least he might whack one in or something.
no,
Robertson,
that's a lie.
I don't think Robertson comes in. I think Coach Berube likes the big boys in a big series.
You're like praying a Bobby McMahon who looks like a 20, 25 goal scorer shows up tonight.
Yeah, hopefully a couple days rest, right? Like a little more pop at the legs. I also wouldn't hate seeing him get a little more opportunity. Like, could he not play beside Tavares and Nylander tonight? And Pacioretty can kind of patches. It's not.
I wouldn't hesitate on a lot of different looks.
Yeah, you wouldn't mind. Seeing a little shuffle.
I'd even like to see Mitch Marner play with a Steve Lorentz on a few shifts.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yes. Okay, I'm on board with that. Get those guys away from
just
some matchups.
Double shift them. Yeah. Go out there and just move them around and have different looks.
It's funny that Berube just likes what they do, and he doesn't seem to want to play with it too much.
Those are called adjustments. Those are. I guess you can watch how it looks in the first 10 minutes, 12 minutes, a period. But if it's not looking great, you got to free up some of these guys. Much has been made out of Marner and Matthews not getting any shots on goal, and I get it, but I mean, Mitch Marner plays the point on the power play. What are the odds of him getting a shot on goal out there?
I don't know. I'm not going to excuse away Mitch
No,
Marner.
I'm not, but I'm just telling you.
Yeah.
It is tight out there.
Yeah. They're good
and
penalty
he doesn't have a booming shot, so you got to give him other opportunities to mix and match and free these guys up.
Yeah, there's no doubt. You can get your guys away from good D. I would take that advantage every time. Yeah. We have Berube on both. What you're looking for from the bottom six and Robertson. Any recommendation there?
I mean, Chris Johnson asked Berube today, basically, like, would you want to test the scratch and score theory here? Basically, like, would you like to put him in? So he answered the question here
on Nick Robertson.
On Nick Robertson, clip 7.
Yeah, I don't know. It does, I guess. You think about it and you go, well, he was out for a couple games and he came in and scored in 1 or 2. He's pretty good at that. But it does, but it doesn't. It just, it depends on what we need and what we think is going to help the team.
Is there any
decisions?
Is there any chance he thinks speed is something they need? Like, Robertson can get up and go. Does it?
I think he plays.
You do?
I do. I don't know. Maybe
I wouldn't hate it.
It's a hunch of a coach's hunch.
I wouldn't hate it. I wouldn't.
I think he maybe plays tonight.
So then, would you have Holmberg or who comes out?
I guess. I don't know. I don't know if I want to.
Gets hard when you start to do that.
Yeah. Holmberg still can.
He's been playing less and less every game.
He can still get in on a forecheck. He can still protect a puck pretty well down low.
He draws penalties.
It'd be a gutsy call to put Nick Robertson in, and I'm not saying that I would really hate it.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't want him to take a penalty.
Oh my God, yeah. If he's in, he can't do anything. If he ices it, takes a penalty, anything, we're gonna light him up. Like it would have to be a.
But hey, I mean, Berube's getting paid millions to make these tough decisions.
You know what I've learned, and I love getting the chance to say this. So my dad coached after his playing days in Utah in the IHL, and I used to go down and spend time in the coaches' rooms. And then I was on staff there with Sheldon and whatever, and in those coaches' rooms making these decisions. And what it comes down to, all the analytics you see, everything, is some guys looking at each other going, what do you think? That's all it is. They don't have the secret sauce. They're not looking through this like NASA chart going beep, boop, boop. Oh, and he's in. Here's what we'll do. They're going, I don't know. Do you think you?
I told you that.
What's your hunch?
There's like 4 or 5 guys with a voice in the room. And it's like, what do you think?
I told you that story about Keenan, Coley Campbell, and Dick Todd, coach and 2 assistant coaches. And it was like, who do you think should start? And they were actually so scared to go first and say it that he made them write it down on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
Write down on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
Slide it over.
And slide it over.
Yeah.
And then you know what happened? They all picked Mike Richter, and then Keenan started Glenn Healy.
Wow.
That's a real Keenan move.
That's how crazy Keenan was.
Yeah. And, I was the video coach, so my voice was worth half a voice. And so I had to be real sure before I'd be like, I'd start, you really had to have a backup for your opinion. Terrifying.
We wouldn't start off with, You're a complete moron if you do this.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't lead with any of that.
Also, Berube got asked about a potential Stolarz decision today.
Oh, cool.
So clip 5.
Yeah, no, it'll be tough. I mean, I'm not really thinking about that yet. That's not there yet. So we'll see how everything goes and where he's at and when he gets there and where we're at as a team and our goalies. It's not something I'm really thinking about right now.
Yeah, in other words, if we lose, Stolarz is playing game 6. If we win, I don't have to answer that question again for another night.
It's like, this is actually not a challenging question.
So you think do you have any knowledge or anything that he could play?
Stolarz?
Yeah.
I would think if Wall finds a way to lose if he mishandles the puck behind the net.
Buddy, if they lose 1-0 and Stolarz is ready, they might be like, we just have to go back. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm with JB on that one, that it would be Stoli, we need you.
Wow.
Yeah. No. Wall's got to win tonight. Win and you're in. How's that?
Pretty good.
Okay. Anything else? Barkov, Matthews not scoring. What do you want?
Actually, let's do Maurice, the clip 3 on Matthews not scoring.
Before the series started, Paul, if someone were to tell you that you'd be going into Game 5 and Auston Matthews wouldn't have a goal, what would you say?
What's the series at? Jona Gadjevich scored that goal. We didn't take it from him and give him to Barkov. Nobody cares.
Great question, Luke.
It's a great
And his snappy retort.
way better answer.
Walked right into that one,
Yeah.
eh?
We do not care. We're trying to win hockey games.
Nobody cares.
That to my point yesterday where we talked about Matthews, whatever, like if they win the next 2 games and Matthews has no points, I do not
43
care.
shot blocks.
I do not care. It doesn't
And
matter.
then it's just like a reset going into a conference final, right?
Against the Canes.
It's no different than a average or below average regular season.
Yeah,
It's like
stretch
game
where
1
it's
in the
like-
playoffs, everybody starts fresh.
Yeah.
That's what a conference final would do to Auston Matthews.
And funny enough, like him and Marner, because they had a couple of big early games in that Ottawa series, like their points per game are fine.
Yeah.
So they'd get through it feeling like their points are okay. And then,
and
go
again,
to Carolina and light it up.
Connor McDavid, last time I checked, 3 goals?
Yeah.
In 10, 11 games?
Matthew Tkachuk's also at 0 goals.
There's a lot of really good hockey players. It's tough out there, man. It is. There's no room.
Yeah, you're not playing Anaheim.
And that's why he's paid the most in the league to get through the tough parts.
This is true.
All right,
This
let's
is a good
break and
point.
we'll get to Wendell.
Okay. As we said, Toronto Maple Leaf legend Wendel Clark will help us tee up Game 5 tonight. Toronto Maple Leafs and the Florida Panthers. It's a Real Kyper and Bourne show. Don't go away. Welcome back to the Real Kyper and Bourne show. Leaf Hour edition. Toronto Maple Leafs and the Panthers. Critical Game 5 at Scotiabank Arena, 7 o'clock. Sportsnet, CBC. In a few minutes, we'll grab Wendell. Okay, not in a few moments. Right now,
Immediately.
the legend himself, Toronto Maple Leaf, Wendel Clark. Hey, Clarky, how are you, pal?
Hey, Kyper, how you guys doing?
We're good, pal. I take it you're on your way to the rink here. I've known you as a teammate, one of a few seasons, 12 in all for you in the Toronto Maple Leafs. I don't know, maybe 80 games in the playoffs. Clarky, is there a chance, you're still a little nervous about a game all these years later?
Now it's a good nervous. This is fun stuff. But it's the fans may be more nervous, but this is we're in the middle of a series. The Stanley Cup champions aren't going to roll over. They know how to play. So we're in a series, and we're tied 2-2. I think things are great.
I imagine you talk to a lot of people and they say, Wendell, how you feeling about things? How do you handicap the next couple of games? What do you expect we'll see? What do you think has to happen here for the Leafs?
Well, we just have to believe in each other. This is, the teams that have gone long in the playoffs for a lot of years, which is Florida has, they know how to play and be patient, and there's going to be ups and downs in a series, and this is our learning curve in the second round, learning to be patient, trust the system that the coach has in you, trust each other, and trust that everything will work out, whether it's a 1-0 game or a 6-5 game. This is where our team has to believe in themselves that they can do it. There's no reason they can't do it, but you have to keep that trust. You can't step outside the box and try home run stuff, because then it'll blow up. You just have to have that confidence in your group that just stay the course and things will work.
Clarky, all season long, the narrative around this team is it feels different. It looks different. Can you compare the makeup of this roster compared to the years past that you've seen and the hiccups that they've gone through and why they seem a little bit more prepared to get over the hump of a big game like tonight?
Well, I think they played the whole season like they didn't have to change the system for the playoffs. They played the whole year the way they're playing right now. I think we were as confident to win a 1-0 or 2-1 hockey game in the regular season as we are now. And you have the horses. If they get some goals and the puck's bouncing the right way, we can do it that way. But I think we have a confidence to play in a game that's 1-0, and we don't care who scores that goal in our lineup. And that's what you have to be in the playoffs. Is it might be the fourth line guy's the biggest goal winner in the game. You just don't know how it works out in the playoffs. If the other team checks the way they're supposed to check, then your big guys aren't going to get points, and that's just the way it is. You just have to rely on, as a team, it's a team game to win, and you have to rely that by the end of the 60 minutes or overtime, your team's going to be better than the other one.
When does the physicality change throughout a series? Like, as you get into game 5, 6, and 7 here, is all sort of the tone setting and glass rattling done, or how much? I guess how does the physicality change as you get deeper into a series?
Well, I think the first round has its own physicality. That's always in all playoff rounds. That first round is so physical, but then every round gets more team-oriented, more in position, more. It's not always about the running around, but you still have to have physical play. You still have to finish your checks. You still have to keep the other team honest, but you're not going out of the way, because in a nothing game, you don't need the 4 minutes for charging in today's game kind of thing. Which might happen, if it's that out of it. So I always find the farther you went in playoffs, everything become more and more organized on both sides. Everybody was just doing the right job, the right thing, which at the end of the day, in most instances, the game gets more boring because everybody is doing. So if there's no mistakes, as a fan, it's actually boring because there's no 2-on-1s, there's no breakaways, there's no outnumbered chances, because everybody's playing good on both sides, and that's sometimes not as exciting. But you have to be that patient to wait for a breakdown. And the team that can be the most patient, wait for the right breakdowns, and then capitalize on whatever chances, because there may be a lot of shots, but they're from the outside. They're low risk shots. We're giving guys chances in low risk areas, and that's okay. Just not in the slot with one-timers. You don't want to be giving up that stuff.
You are listening to former captain, Toronto Maple Leaf legend, Wendel Clark. So, Clark, if we go back to 1993 and one of the more memorable Stanley Cup moments in recent Leaf history is you, my friend, and Marty McSorley. And can you take us back to a little bit of the buildup and how and why that fight happened? And could you see any scenario at all between the Leafs and Florida tonight where that could be called upon if someone felt it was needed?
Well, no, the whole scenario, if it was needed, but depending on the player that did it and to whom he did it to, and you'd have to wonder whether the guy is going to respond. The game's changed a lot, so if somebody finishes their check today, a lot of times they don't own up to what they did. So Marty, always being a player that's going to own up, he knew they were going to lose that game, so he went out of the way to do something to wake his team up and let us know that they're ready to play. And basically, we couldn't allow him to do that to our best player. Dougie's the guy that stirs our drink. He was the best player in the league that at that time, what he did that year for our team. So he, so that I pretty much knew Marty was going to stick up for himself if I was coming. And so that's the excitement. And Marty and I he was my first 2 fights ever in the NHL in the exhibition season. He was, I think he forgot I got drafted first overall, that I wasn't trying out for the Big Daddy spot on defense. So he didn't like me from the get-go. So that's what running around gets you. But that's it. It was all in fun. And then that just raised the temperature of the series and everything that was going on. And then that was an exciting series. We just didn't have to end up on the right side of it.
I think there's a few Toronto Maple Leaf fans old enough to have watched Kulikov take a healthy run at Marner with his elbow to the head and wonder what a Wendel Clark as a line mate would have done to Kulikov at that moment.
Well, you never know. Every situation is different. But, every situational. I got to walk the fence here. Every situation is different. But no, I like the way the guys have played and how they're playing. And like you say, you've earned the right to have the home games now for the series, best of 3 by finishing first. So now we have to look after ourselves and either do it the easier way and win tonight, or do it the harder way and fight right till the end. But you have a great team in Florida that, they've been to the Cup, so they understand the situations they're in. But I really do think we are a good enough team to learn and battle and win.
So when you're watching this team, like something that stands out for when you played, like you're a physical player, but you were a player, right? You're on the ice, you're in the big moments and contributing offensively. I look around the league, Tom Wilson is someone who does that. Matthew Knies is maybe the closest thing the Leafs have to that, a guy who can be physically dominant and go toe-to-toe with someone but still score goals. Where do you think he is in his evolution, particularly as a playoff performer for the Leafs?
I think Matthew is scratching the surface of how good he can be in the playoffs. I really think I think Craig as a coach has been wonderful for him to get basically the Western Canadian, North American style chirping in his ear on the bench. And because he has such a makeup of playing north and south and finishing your checks, and then he's got a great set of hands that he can score. So I think as he understands for himself, if he really figures it out, teach him how to teach him how to have no friends for 18 minutes every second night. And that's no friends for 18 minutes. After that, you can be the nicest guy in the world. But for 18 minutes, no friends.
Kip just wrote down "no friends" as like a note he was trying to remember.
Yeah, but it's because he's really, and I really think it's the coaching that's changed. And because you grew up in Arizona, everything's kind of their style of hockey and everything. Matthews being your idol, probably growing up, so that's the style. But in his makeup, he is a power forward that can really, like, just with size and makeup and then he gets to feed off the talent, and the talent gets to feed off him. Like they get more room the way when he's playing really well.
Mm-hmm. Great feeling this time of year. Clarky must bring back great memories for you. Playoff hockey.
No, this is as you guys know, the only hockey you miss is this time of year. I don't miss training camp. You don't miss the grind in the middle of the season, but this time of year for all us old guys, this is the fun stuff for the players. This is and it's all the butterflies and nerves that you get as a player. That's the fun part. That's why you play the game and to be in situations with fans at home that love you and then fans on the road that hate you. And it's so fun as a player to be in these loved buildings and hated buildings.
And you don't take a stick to the head, an elbow to the chops.
No injuries.
And have a lamb chop for me in the alumni room.
Hey, well, hopefully, guys. I always go for the chicken fingers. They're always
Keep her simple.
The building or the alumni box. Yep, don't change my diet.
No. You're just
Don't be Gary Roberts, all right, Kip?
just a simple farmer.
That's it.
All right, Clarky, have a great time tonight. Really appreciate you coming on our show.
Thanks, guys.
Okay.
Take care.
Thank you.
Toronto Maple Leaf great, Wendel.
That was fantastic.
First 2 fights of his career were Marty McSorley.
So
No thanks.
I every time it gets brought up, and I think we've had him on before and talked about it, but I go back and watch the fight.
Yeah.
I don't know. Marty McSorley's jaw needs to be studied by science, how he survived those first 3 rights. The first 3 rights from Wendel Clark in that fight.
That was Clarky's signature, right? Get in early.
And he landed 3 on the button. And McSorley, to his credit, stood right in there, kept chucking. But what a moment. That's if you asked a certain vintage of Leaf fans their favorite moment, that's top 5 no matter what.
That in the 360.
Yeah, the
Gilmore.
wraparound. Yep.
The wraparound.
Absolutely.
Those 2 moments carried a lifetime for young Leaf fans.
Can we give the next generation their moment?
Mitch Marner spinning around twice behind the net and wrapping it in.
Something.
Can you give them
Could be a nice breakaway.
moment.
It could be a Marner or, as Wendell said, a 4th liner, right?
Scotty Lawton, come on down. The people would love to love Lawton.
18 minutes, no friends every other night. Tattoo that on my face.
My God, was that not how I played hockey? I made bar plans and scrums.
What do you like to drink? Gin and tonic?
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah, I'll see you out there after.
You should write a book, How Not To.
Oh, yeah. You don't need me to write it. Ask my coaches.
Fantastic.
A couple of Kippers Clippers you want to get to, or are you good?
Let's talk matchups. You got Tavares and the hard
Well,
matchup.
No. I was just going to tee it up. They asked him kind of about, because he got matched up a lot against the Lusterinen line or the Lundell or the whatever you want to say it. And Berube kind of addressed that today, and we could listen to that clip. Clip 8, please.
Well, I could get him out there against different people. That Lundell line's played well, not only defensively, but they're producing too for the team. So it's a very good line, and it's a tough line. It's a good line with Marchand on it, makes it better. Obviously, with his competitiveness and his game. We'll see.
The other one I wouldn't mind hearing from him is on breaking the puck out, which is something that I have written about. They got to do some work on.
Yeah, so it's a good clip. Which
out of our from our breakouts and coming out of D-zone coverage. Well, I thought they were pretty good last game, to be honest with you. We look at all those stats and the video, obviously, and it's not clean all the time. So you got to understand, it's not going to be clean. The game will not be clean the way they pressure, and you got to be comfortable with things off the glass, chip outs, and we got to have people skating, getting through there to get onto those pucks. So it's not always going to be clean, but I think our D are doing a good job of that. I thought our wall play was pretty good last game. So there's a lot of good things that way. We got to find a way to get through that swarm and nerve zone, especially off our forward check. That'll be key tonight.
Yeah.
They did feel it between Stolars and Joseph Wall handling the puck.
Huge difference.
I'm telling you that if he can stay a little quiet, Joseph Wall tonight, even minimal, at least the guys need to know that they're going back, and it's not a great puck handler in the crease tonight.
I'm not sure Chris Tanev agrees with the goalie not going out as much.
To me, it's more Stolars is really good at it, and Wool's just fine.
Well, if he has a cleaner look tonight, it'll go a long way to a cleaner look getting out of your own zone. All right, boys.
What's going to happen? Score. Kyper.
Let's go 3-2 Leafs in overtime.
I got 3-1 Leafs.
4-3 Leafs OT.
All right, so we're good. We're good. 2 days off really should have benefited the Leafs the most. A ton of momentum was lost with the extra day for Florida, so I'm looking for a better start.
18 minutes, no friends every other night, boys.
What a life.
There we go.
What a way to live.
All right. 7 o'clock tonight. No need to ever change your dial on Sportsnet. All right, we go national next on the Real Kyper and Bourne Show. It's the National Hour on the Real Kyper and Bourne Show. We are live on Sportsnet 650 in Vancouver and Sportsnet 960 in Calgary. This hour of Real Kyper and Bourne brought to you by Bet365. In a couple of minutes, we'll welcome in Blake Wheeler, former NHLer. Did a terrific job moonlighting a little bit on Hockey Night in Canada.
What's the origin of that term?
Moonlighting.
Anyways,
I don't know.
Continue. I'll Google it.
I think you're hiding. You're hiding doing a job.
Think so?
I don't know. Look it up.
Having a second job in addition to one's regular employment.
There you go.
So exactly
You
right.
actually nailed it.
Nailed
There
it.
you go.
Plenty to talk about off ice as well, including what's wrong? Oh, your jersey. You're so excited
I
about
think
the
we
Leafs.
did it yesterday, too, didn't we?
You got to leave it now.
Yeah.
Got to leave it. That's okay. I'm usually all over you,
Sorry, man. Go ahead.
but that's okay.
Large Leafs match tonight.
Large, very large. Jason Bukala will join us as well, former NHL scout, Pro Hockey Group, and Sportsnet. Always love his insights as well. So we're going to get into a ton for sure in terms of Adam Foote in Vancouver, Rick Tocchet in Philadelphia, Ken Holland in L.A. But I want to start with Jets talk. And
Do you?
yeah, I do. I do. And how
tough
do
talk right now.
how do you feel about another road loss and their chances of coming back here? And where is this on potentially being a very tough ending to a fantastic season?
They're in real trouble. They're in real trouble. It's not so much that the Jets can't beat Dallas, not so much that I don't think they'll go back into Winnipeg and get another game off them. Beating the Dallas Stars 3 times, who now have Miro Heiskanen back, and they're fully loaded, right? They got everyone. Rantanen's found himself as the best player in playoffs so far. They're in tough. I don't know what else to say other than, we talk about the Leafs in the first hour trying to get through Florida. It's hard to get through this Dallas team, and boy, it's they got some firepower too.
I thought they were good last night. Just
Where were you
Ottinger
on?
was better.
Where were you on Granlund being a killer?
A hat trick in playoffs. I mean, it's cool to see. I will say I like
Boys,
seeing.
I didn't like that first goal.
Hellebuyck.
We're just showing the first goal where he gains the blue line like it's nothing, and then I'm sorry, but
You can do
I played.
goalie talk, aren't you?
I played a lot of games, practiced a lot of a lot of days against really good NHL goalies.
Yeah.
None of them fell down on their ass after a 30-foot wrist shot. I don't know.
The first one, here?
Yeah, just watch the first one. Watch him fall back. Does he have balance?
Yeah, no, I think you're onto something there.
Look,
think
I don't see. You don't see a goalie fall backwards on his ass after a 40-foot wrist shot, a 30-foot wrist shot. It's weird.
not even like off the inside of the post or anything.
It's like he is he looked so uncomfortable for me. Connor Hellebuyck.
Finns dominating for the Stars. They have 18 goals from Finnish players.
Is that right?
18.
Granlund, Hintz, Rantanen.
Yes. And the rest of the NHL, 14. So there you go. Tons of Finns dominating for them.
Yeah, that's crazy. You know what I do like seeing? I like seeing deadline acquisitions make a difference for a team because I want to encourage that from GMs. But Rantanen and Granlund for them, pushing them through to some wins here should be encouraging. You know, the Jets stood pat at the deadline. You know, very minimal additions, Tanev, Shen.
Those are good, but they're not Granlund and Rantanen, that's for sure.
Almost impossible to replicate that.
Granlund they got from Nashville.
San Jose.
San Jose.
Because they got CC with him too, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right. One of those guys, I think he was at $5 million.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like somebody paid him thinking he was a very good player.
Right.
But not one of those names at the trade deadline. You're like,
we must have him.
Yeah, he was not high on the trade talk.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm not mistaken, he went, I think it was maybe a week before that. Like, he was not on the day. he was a couple days before, maybe a week before. But yeah,
it was a sneaky Jim Nill pickup, and it's looking that way right now.
Yeah, no doubt about that. So they're finding a way, Dallas, to get through it. You know, it's a long shot. Call it a 20% chance now for the Jets. Beating Dallas 3 straight times, but get 2 of the 3 games will be at home, which is encouraging. You just need your top guys.
Scott Arniel on the opening goal. Obviously, Connor Hellebuyck wants the first one back, the wrister.
Yeah.
All right, let's welcome him in. Blake Wheeler. 1,172 games,
Jeez.
943 points. But one of the highlights of your career has to be working with Elliot Friedman, no? Blake?
That takes the cake, guys. That takes the cake.
Well, where are you right now? You settled back in back home?
Yeah, I'm back in Connecticut. I'm about to hop on the ice with my 7-year-old son. We got practice tonight, so it never stops, guys.
All right. So how did you enjoy the last few nights playing the part of broadcaster, journalist, insider, all of that stuff that you dreaded facing? And how many times did you hang up on Elliot when you played?
I had an absolute blast. We had a good time. Those guys are such pros. They actually made it really easy on me. So I couldn't have had a better time. They were, like I said, they treated me very well. It's funny. I saw somebody made a comparison. Me doing that was like Roy Kent doing that. And Ted Lasso. I thought that was pretty funny and pretty fitting. So
he did a great job. It was really enjoyable to watch. Love to tap into some of your expertise. So you're a big guy. You scored a lot of goals and points in the NHL in the regular season, and your points per game in the playoffs are very similar to your regular season numbers. But, we just know it gets harder for these guys. Auston Matthews is having trouble being the same guy he's been in the past in the postseason. What gets harder as an offensive player in the postseason trying to be the guy you've always been?
it's time and space. You got to keep in mind that you're playing a 7-game series and the other team has spent a ton of time game planning against what you do well. So you're facing a team that's focused a ton of time and energy on limiting you feeling good on the ice. So in a series like Florida, that is specifically what Florida does incredibly well. They make that game incredibly boring and incredibly frustrating to play against. So I made note of it the other night on TV that's where the power play is so important, because even if you're not scoring goals, you want your power play at least to have your best players touching the puck, feeling good, so that, it's not bleeding into the 5-on-5 game. If that power play is stalled, if you're breaking it out, if you're trying to enter 3 times and those guys are getting back to the bench, slamming the door and frustrated, it bleeds into their 5-on-5 game. So, that's where I think that there could be opportunity for little adjustments and getting those Leaf players in positions where they're most effective, so that even if they're not scoring on the power play, at least they're touching the puck. At least they're creating some scoring chances. At least maybe Auston Matthews is hitting a couple one-timers so that he's feeling like, okay, that feels good. That feels normal again. Right. So maybe he gets an opportunity 5-on-5, and that third opportunity that comes 5-on-5 goes in the back of the net.
Blake, if there's by chance, at game 5, 6, or 7, and we don't see a lot of power play opportunities, you, along with the greats, including Auston Matthews, played on top lines. Is there anything else in terms of maybe talking to the coach, changing up a line mate, or freeing you up a little bit, different system or forecheck? Is there other ways that a coach can help a player outside of just trying harder or waiting for a power play to build some confidence up?
Well, at home, you definitely can be helped out a lot because you control the matchup. So that's a great opportunity for Berube to try to get that matchup, to maybe get him a couple more advantageous matchups. He can maybe get him out in an ozone face-off against the other team's third or fourth line. There's little things matchup-wise at home that you can control to try to get your best players out and maybe get them a little better look. And my mindset in matchups like this, if I was playing against a line that was maybe getting the better of me, maybe I was feeling a little bit frustrated. My mindset going into a game like that is I'm just going to make their life as miserable as possible. So maybe I don't factor in on the score sheet, but that other line, that other matchup that I'm going against, they're going to feel me all night long. So that's a little subtle hack into it too. Like the mindset in these series is, am I making the other team's life hard? Am I making their life easy? And those are the little games within the game that can show up, especially later in the series.
Yeah, I love that.
How much do you think it's like within your control to, as I played wing, and for me, it was like, you can't really go take the game by the horns sometimes. You just kind of have to wait for your spots and whatever. Is it tough when you're pushing and you want offense and you want to score to kind of remain patient and just kind of, I don't know, hope you get your chances?
Yeah. It is hard.
Yeah. Okay, next question.
And especially when you're the captain of the team, especially in a Canadian market, especially in Toronto, especially with the narrative that's been going on around this team, those are all heavy weights that you got to carry around. So factoring all those things in, the answer to that question is absolutely yes. So as much as, you want to stay composed, you want to stay patient, you want to stay within yourself and let the game come to you. This is a massive moment in these guys' window of opportunity as far as this group being together. So game 5 of this round, I wouldn't use patience as maybe the word that I would go into this game with.
Yeah.
You're watching and listening to Blake Wheeler, former National Hockey Leaguer and now star of Sportsnet Hockey Night in Canada. Blake, in terms of the Winnipeg Jets, we had just briefly talked about the game last night and maybe their chances of coming back into this series at all. But let's just start first and foremost, and I know you guys have talked about this the last couple of days as well, but, this Jekyll and Hyde of winning and losing at home and on the road, and particularly Connor Hellebuyck now losing all his magic on the road. Like, what are the first couple of thoughts as to how that could possibly happen with a team that was well known for their consistent play on the road all season?
It's one of those things that's kind of unexplainable to a certain extent. I would almost use the same comparison as I just used with the Maple Leafs. This is such a narrative now that there's just no escaping it. Like, there's no way to not carry this with you into games. Like you go into a road game in Dallas, all you're thinking about is, I just want to win this game so bad so nobody talks about these road playoff woes anymore. The thing I will say about Connor Hellebuyck is it's very clear he's the best goaltender in the world, and he has been the last few years. I mean, he's up for the Hart Trophy this year. That's very rare for a goaltender to be nominated for the Hart Trophy. It wasn't too long ago. Well, maybe it feels like a long time ago now, but I remember playing a game 7 with him in Nashville, and, he was a young player at the time, and the poise and the confidence that he exuded. So it's in there. He's done it before. He's shown up in big moments in the past. We won a couple must-win playoff games in St. Louis the year after that. We ended up losing that series, but our backs were against the wall at that point too. So there's no question it's in there. They're in a big rut here the last couple playoffs on the road. And, it's just one of those things that I don't think anyone has a real easy answer to, the team included.
One of the things you mentioned there is, you want to go win the road game so everyone kind of stops talking about this silly thing. Well, we're in Toronto and everyone's talking about Matthews and Marner not creating this. And then Stu Skinner, after the game the other day, they said, how do you quiet the noise? And he was like, what noise? He was able to turn it out. How much did you hear from the outside, and how much did it affect you and your teammates when you're in these playoff series?
I love that answer, and I would be curious how true that answer is.
Right, yeah.
And so you can do all the things you want. You can delete the social media apps from your phone. You can turn off the radio. You can not turn the TV on. All those things are great. And then you lose a game, you walk into the dressing room, and there's reporters in front of you asking those questions. So the fact of the matter is, it's real. And it's part of the job, and it's part of the pressure and the privilege of playing in a Canadian market. When you play in a Canadian market that people truly care about what you do for a living, that's why it's such a beautiful thing, and that's why it's such a stressful thing at the same time. So it's really, really, I would say, impossible to drown out the noise, especially in 2025. You can be proactive and do all these different things. But like I said, when you lose, what is it now, 9 straight road playoff games, like, that, and you're answering that question after practice, after games, day after day.
You know, you bring up an interesting point, and you, along with Auston Matthews, an American player playing in Canada, was there anything you growing up watching, listening that could have prepared you for a Canadian market and the scrutiny that comes with it? And you played in other markets, including New York, but is there anything that you could think of that a player can do to prep himself that didn't really grow up in that culture? Or is it just something that you have to just learn year after year?
I don't think there's really much you can do. It's something that, how do you prepare yourself for that? You know, I think the best way to do it is to really look at it, like I was trying to say before, like what an amazing opportunity to play in a market where people truly care about what you do for a living. And certainly there's moments where, you know, that feels very true and moments where it doesn't feel as true. So it's like the human element of it, that when times are good and you're playing in a market like Toronto or Winnipeg or Edmonton, I mean, there's no better place to play. And, you know, when times are a little bit tougher, it can be tough because you feel like you can't leave your house. So, you know, that's just like any, you know, that goes for the Canadian markets, but it goes for, you know, the big US markets. It's just the way it is. And, you know, those are the teams you ultimately want to play for, because you want to play in front of, you know, sold out houses. You want to play in front of people who really love the game of hockey.
Mm-hmm. Like, one of the things that the Leafs fans here are hoping is different for their team this year is Craig Berube's a little bit more chill. Like, he's just he doesn't seem to get too high, too low, too unaffected. I'm sure you've seen different coaches deal with the same group of players. And is it possible to really, I don't know, get them to react differently in these situations? Or is it kind of like the guys in the room are who the guys are?
No, I think so.
Yeah.
I think the guys respond to the coach and their personality. And, you know, keep in mind, it's not too long ago he won a Stanley Cup. So he knows the blueprint. Like he has been in adverse situations and handled it and thrived and won. So I think, if anything, those guys are really looking to him, and they look behind the bench and they see a poised guy who's, you know, not disturbed by the moment. I think that they can draw a ton of confidence from that, especially in, you know, times like now where they've lost 2 games and now the noise gets a little bit turned up. And when he's cool, calm, and collected behind the bench, I think that that's something they can really draw on.
Blake, the Edmonton Oilers can advance to the conference final in consecutive postseasons for the first time since 1990 to 1992. What's the biggest difference between the team that we saw in the Stanley Cup final last season to this one this year?
I mean, last year felt like a surprise, I would say. And, you know, almost in the regular season this year, it felt like they were kind of biding their time. Felt like they were kind of getting through it. They were building slowly all year. I think they learned a ton from that run last year of like what it takes, what it took out of them. And, you know, as they were ramping up for the postseason, like the question I had in my mind was are they able to get to that level again? Because you didn't really feel like during the regular season they'd maybe gotten to that same Stanley Cup caliber level. They, you know, they're kind of finding their game a little bit all year. And now as the playoffs have gone on, you've seen, you know, that they've taken their game to another level. Like that last game in Edmonton, that was a team, when you watch that game, that looks like a team that can win the Stanley Cup. And the thing that honestly stood out for me more than anything in that hockey game was I was watching 97, and I wasn't watching him with the puck going up the ice. I was watching him come back. And that was different. That's different with Connor McDavid. He was coming back. He was breaking up a ton of plays. He was stripping guys from behind. That looks like a guy who's committed to doing whatever it takes to win a Stanley Cup. And keep in mind, I think he's a couple points behind Rantanen, but I think he has 17 points in like 10 games or something like that. The offense is there, but like he's playing a 200-foot game.
Yeah. Like, I want to ask you a self-serving question before I let you go, because you played in some of the coolest arenas. We would have played each other for a couple years in college. You were at Mariucci, and I was up in Alaska. I assisted on a game-winning overtime goal in playoffs. No big deal. Let's not talk about that. But you also played in Winnipeg. So you had the great vibes in Mariucci, the great vibes in Winnipeg. And I want to get your thoughts on playing in unbelievable arenas and how it actually does impact energy levels and the vibes of a game.
In an incredible way. I mean, we didn't have an NHL hockey team most of my childhood. So University of Minnesota, that was our NHL. So to play at that arena, Mariucci Arena, as a college kid in front of 10,000 fans every single night was like a dream come true for me. To start my career in Boston, to play in front of those fans, a
Right.
team that was ramping up to win a Stanley Cup, and then go right from there to, well, I guess I had a pit stop in Atlanta. That was a different story. We'll bookmark that one.
Right.
And then Winnipeg, has just been like electricity since day one. And to finish my career playing at Madison Square Garden, which was, my favorite arena of them all. So,
Cool.
I was very lucky to play in some of the really coolest atmospheres in pro hockey, and really, really proud of being a part of like building what's been built in Winnipeg, and like establishing that culture and establishing kind of what you see now. I take a lot of pride in that. I know all the guys that played sort of in my era in Winnipeg feel the same way.
Blake, really appreciate your time. Welcomed on the show anytime, my friend. Thanks for doing this.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks, man.
That is Blake Wheeler.
By the way,
what's that? Go ahead.
I was just going to say it's funny because I was just like checking out the college hockey rosters from when we played each other. And I was like, yeah, him and I, we were both pretty good players. And I checked, he's 4.5 years younger than me. We were playing at the same age.
Yeah, we're on the same level.
Yeah, me, him, Blake, we're the same guy.
4.5. Not much of a difference.
I was a 23-year-old senior, by the way.
I really liked his comments that if it's not going well for me, then I'm going to make someone else I'm playing against miserable. I love that.
Me too.
And Austin's done a good job against Barkov, the 5-on-5, but he's done it without making him feel like he's miserable.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
That's the only difference.
Yeah. I also like his point that, great to see these guys, playing, doing all these other things. The power play would be a nice spot for them to just grab a couple of those points that make these guys feel better about things.
I just love what he said about that. Even if you don't score, like, yes, you feel it. You don't go back to the bench slamming your stick and you're frustrated and that's banner. It's a great point. That was good. Yeah, that was really good.
He also mentioned, in this market, Canada, there's times you can't leave your house. You don't want to leave your house.
Noise can be great.
He's not
terrifying.
exaggerating. He's not, it's not tongue in cheek. It's, guys, that's the difference between our country and a lot of markets down south.
Yeah. No, there's no doubt.
Did you want to have a quick talk it convo before we do game time here? Before we get to, or do you want to save that with?
Yeah, we'll go after the break. We'll get into Rick Tocchet.
We got Books coming up, so I just didn't know if you wanted to do it just amongst us.
All right, then just in terms of
they announced it today.
Yeah, Rick Tocchet officially coach of the Philadelphia Flyers.
It seemed too good, too obvious.
No real surprise here.
No.
And our good buddy on Fridays, Doug McLean, called this like 3 months ago.
Oh God.
He did. I'm telling you,
Friday
he did.
is just going to be he's just going to be.
Oh, and
maybe he's on the road.
I
We can't
kind of
get
feel
him.
a little bit for Vancouver fans, and I've said this as well, that there's many reasons, and like it's just not about the money, but I think in this case, it came down to, I'll say this, it's always first and foremost about the money.
Really?
Vancouver did not or would not step up when he knew that what was out there waiting for him was a market that put him now probably right behind Mike Sullivan, guys. He is one of the highest paid coaches in the National Hockey League right now.
Wow. I mean, he had just oodles of leverage based on 6 NHL openings in desirable markets, and, a year removed from winning a Jack Adams, where, if you don't want to match the other teams, I'll just go coach somewhere else.
And I know there's various reports in Vancouver, I heard, was it about $4 million, maybe times 4 or 5, but it was 4. And I got to think he's up around 6 now.
Yeah.
And I have not heard the term, but I would imagine on a rebuilding team in Philadelphia, he could go 5 to 7 years on a long-term deal if he chose that.
And he's an easy guy to get along with. Like, he's not going to blow that up.
Can I ask you though? Like, I mean, the money matters, but it's Rick Tocchet and the Flyers.
Yeah.
Like it's.
The firing of torts has partially got to be related to like that guy's available.
I mean, he's a Flyer Hall of Famer. He's he's probably he's really tight with Jonesy and Briere. Like it just felt like it was the most obvious thing ever.
It is. It was for sure in that market and his history there, and
people love him.
where his status now as a coach now has gone to another level. It made a ton of sense, and of course we got to mention Adam Foote again. No real surprise here. At the end of the day, if we're talking about strictly money, big difference between giving Tocchet $5 or $6 million and Adam Foote at what could be considered a starting salary in the National Hockey League for a head coach with no head coaching experience yet
2.5.
at that level. 1.2, 1.4.
Really? You think so?
That's the starting market for an NHL head coaching job with no experience.
So Vancouver
Could
fans,
be more.
Yeah.
Could be more, but I don't think so for an organization notoriously known for not paying coaches top dollar.
exactly what I was going to bring up, because I know we're on in Vancouver and Vancouver fans are listening to this. Like, I mean, I feel bad for Adam Foote going in there and like having it be this perception, but I can tell you from the Vancouver people that I've sort of followed and reading the stuff on X and just kind of getting a feel for it, this does feel like what you're talking about with them not willing to pay a lot.
It's the
I hate to say it because he
Eddie
could do a
Murphy
good
Raw,
job,
is
but
it where he says to his mom he wants to go to McDonald's,
Yeah.
and she's like, "We have hamburger meat at home."
Yeah,
We go home and
exactly.
make that burger.
I
That's
just
the burger with the green stuff
Yeah.
sticking out, the onions, and it's like
One Wonder Bread.
as Eddie
that Adam
Murphy,
Foote here?
as Eddie Murphy was like, that don't look like McDonald's.
But Adam Foote is a awesome and like a great NHLer. He's, I just feel bad disparaging him on the first day he gets named this first head. You know what I mean? But like,
we're not.
there's
We're
a
not.
perception amongst
nothing
Vancouver fans about it.
It's not about Adam Foote
Yeah.
or what he can or can't do. He could be a great National Hockey League head coach.
Yeah.
This is just the path that they chose
Well, and Tocchet was an established guy. That's
as an
different.
organization. And just to kind of advance this a little bit, advantage Adam Foote knowing all the issues going on instead of a new guy coming in and going, well, now I get a fresh start and let's bring in Pettersson and I got a chance to work with him and it's a clean slate here? Or does he pick up where Tocchet left off in terms of knowing where the real issues are off the ice?
This is one of your least favorite things.
Hate it.
Yeah, you've always been on.
If you
What would you have done if you owned the Vancouver Canucks? Would you have gone to a guy that knows what's going on and all the issues, or would you started out with a guy that really knew nothing?
Here's the thing I say all the time. He was here when the issues were happening. If he had solutions, we could have used them. Where were they then?
Yeah.
You got a new solution? Like I don't like hiring assistant coaches purely because it's like the team failed, so we fired the coach. But you were on the staff. Did you have a new breakout you could have brought us, perhaps? So again, I don't. Everything I've heard about Foote is great.
Yeah.
This is not about Foote. I don't like hiring assistant coaches typically for the organization they've been with after the head coach is gone. And yeah, it never feels right when they're like, they saved money on the guy. It's like, well, no fan wants to hear or know that.
Could Quinn Hughes love him?
I think he does. I think could that be part of like, hey, this is the key Hughes here.
If Hughes is like, I love this guy, he's hired.
Yeah.
Like, you're doing everything in your potential to get him on a long-term contract whenever he's eligible, which is next summer, or is it this summer?
I think it's 2 years.
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so it would be next summer that he would be eligible for a contract extension. So you want to keep him as happy as possible. So good luck to Canucks fans out there. Crazy year.
Godspeed.
Crazy year.
Yeah.
It's game time, presented by Bet365. Visit the app for latest odds and find out why it's ever ordinary at Bet365. Let's 19 plus. Until only. Please play responsibly. So 2 games on the ice tonight, fellas. 2 big ones. The Edmonton Oilers with a chance to move on to the conference finals. They are in Vegas. Plus 105 on the money line. Vegas favorites minus 125. No Mark Stone tonight, I don't think. I think Mark Stone may be not playing. I think he's banged up. So
That's a game changer, too.
I'm going to say right now, sitting here looking at that number, I'm surprised. I'm surprised that the Vegas Golden Knights are favorites in this one. I think that's a good spot if you're an Oilers bettor, that they had some pretty good value on them there at plus 105. And the one that all of Canada cares by far the most about, the Toronto Maple Leafs hosting the Florida Panthers.
You're really trying to get people out west to like turn us off right now.
Anyways, minus 140, the Florida Panthers tonight. Massive favorites in Toronto. Plus 120, the Toronto Maple Leafs on home ice tonight. it's just continuing with the trend this whole series on Bet365. They've been huge favorites in most of the games. They were huge favorites going into the series. They weren't even that big underdogs when they were down 2-0.
They're supposed to win the series. They're the favorites.
So the Leafs, those plucky underdogs, maybe they got a chance tonight against the big bad
Even
Florida
if they
Panthers.
keep it close, it should feel good.
It's just a great try. It's not a fork in the road moment at all for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Oh, I got no comment.
Anyways, that was Game Time presented by Bet365. Visit the app for latest odds and find out why it's ever ordinary at Bet365. Must be 19 plus. Ontario only. Please play responsibly.
Okay, off of that, we're going to take a quick break, and when we return, I'm going to ask you guys, with everything you've witnessed up until now, who is your Stanley Cup favorite? That and Jason Bukala when we return to Real Kyper and Bourne. Welcome back to the program. As a reminder, this hour of Real Kyper and Bourne brought to you by Bet365. In a few seconds, we'll welcome in Jason Bukala, former NHL scout, does a terrific job with us here at Sportsnet. And Sammy, you got an update for us?
Yeah. So tomorrow, the Toronto Blue Jays are playing a afternoon game, work from dome game. But instead of giving us the day off, our bosses decided to make us come in after a Game 5 fork in the road
seems
moment.
like one we should come in for.
You know, the demand for us?
Yes, I know.
Our fans would not allow that.
And I'm absolutely thrilled to be doing it. Can't wait to talk about a big win tomorrow. Sportsnet 360 will still be on. We'll be on TV for both hours. We'll be on Sportsnet Plus, streaming on the alt stream on the website. So you can go there. There's 2 streams there. And we're on the Sportsnet app as well for all the both hours. So Sportsnet 360, Sportsnet Plus, streaming on the alt stream and on the app. So we're all over the place still tomorrow, and we're ready to rock.
In the meantime, we're all over the place, coast to coast on Sportsnet. Therefore, we bring in Jason Bukala right now, former NHL scout, pro hockey group, and of course, major contributor here at Sportsnet. Books, thanks for joining us. So, we had Wendel Clark earlier on. We talked Blake Wheeler too. Just these guys in terms of the anticipation and the feel when you were a player, and then even Wendel years later. What about scouts on big nights and having some of your fingerprints all over a club? These games can't be easy for scouts now watching, especially one like in Toronto, for instance.
You're dying on the vine every stoppage, every bad goal, every big goal. These can be the most enjoyable times of the year and the most stressful. And the higher up you get, the way it is in sports, guys, the higher up you get in an organization, the closer you get to the door. Well, that's exactly what happened to me, right? So we were getting so good in Florida until, they made the change. And trust me, as we were climbing that mountain, and they still got a lot of pieces there left from our previous staff with Scott Luce and Aaron Janela and a whole bunch of guys that really contributed out to her. But you're dying every time because behind closed doors, you're going to have scouting meetings. You're going to be prepping for the combine. You're going to have hard conversations with your general manager. And if things don't go well, they're not very fun. They're not in a good mood, and it puts you on notice, that's for sure.
So, Books, was there one particular game where you felt like maybe your job was on the line? Do you remember it? Do you remember watching certain players going, "You're going to get me fired"?
No, I don't remember it that way, but I got to tell you this. When I first got to Florida, Brian Screwlin, you guys know Screwy,
oh, yeah.
Right? Okay, so Screwy, one of the most fascinating human beings you will ever meet. Somebody take a minute to look it up. He's awesome. When I first got to Florida from Nashville, and we had a good run of playoff success there, or at least being in playoffs, and Florida hadn't made it for a while. Do you remember the Adam Henry I think it was double overtime, the overtime goal to eliminate us in Florida? When Peter DeBoer was coaching Jersey, Screwy was all over me leading it up. He's like, "This is great. We brought the guy over from Nashville to make playoffs." Then we get scored on in overtime. And he's like, "Forget about it. I don't want to talk about it anymore." Just like that, it went to a new level. We don't care about making it. We want to have success. Beat it. You're no good anymore.
Oh, gosh.
It's chaos. It's chaos for everyone watching. We did talk before we had you on. We talked a little bit about the Canucks getting Adam Foote hired, and there's they made another move today. You seem like the right guy to tell our Canucks fans a little bit of what happened here. Tom Wielander, I believe it's pronounced, has signed his contract.
Yes, this is great news for the Canucks. It sounded like in the last couple of weeks they were negotiating the A bonuses, and they were coming so close to getting a deal done based on, in my mind, in the big picture, if you're going to sign a really good player long term, this is nickels and dimes at this point, right, guys? And I always hate when you have your A prospects who are already getting kind of ground out for these types of contractual situations. The good news is he's signed. Here's my comparable for you guys. When we drafted Mike Matheson back in the day out of the USHL in Dubuque, he went to Boston College. And Mike Matheson, I think you both would agree, is an outstanding skater. He tracks pucks. He's generally first on the puck. And then sometimes things kind of break down a little bit there. It might be, not taking the easiest outlet or skating it into traffic. Well, Lander is very similar in a lot of ways. He's an outstanding skater. So when the puck gets dumped in behind him, like the Leafs Panthers series, he's not going to be absorbing contact as much because he's on it so quick that when he's on time, he'll move it to spaces that are safe. That's a great attribute in today's NHL. Offensively, he's a second tier guy for me, maybe second unit power play. But what they have going for them there right now in Vancouver with Elias Pettersson, the defenseman, the big rig on the left side, and now Willander coming on the right side, this is good news for the Canucks, and I believe both those guys are top four statues, if you will, going forward for several years if things go well. He might make the team out of camp, but it won't be a straight line. But he'll be much better than Timothy Liljegren was. It won't be that long a process for him as a comparable.
So with Vancouver, we'll stick with we'll start with Adam Foote, and in terms of his challenges moving forward and making the playoffs, how far is that away? And then, you know what, Books, just slide it right into Philadelphia for Tocchet and his challenges, and how soon both Vancouver and Philly could be looking at potentially challenge for a playoff spot or making even noise in them.
Yeah, so I think Vancouver is very close. I mean, all things considered, that tire fire that went off the rails this year was still hanging around for the last 2 weeks to make playoffs. And that, to me, speaks to the value of that coaching staff. I thought Rick Tocchet did as good a job this year, perhaps better than he did when he was named Coach of the Year. Let's be honest, with all the distractions that were going on. I was sitting on the fence. I did my thing in Vancouver yesterday. I was sitting on the fence when I was put on the spot. Do you go outside the organization or do you hire Foote? I know Foote's a fantastic communicator. He's got the ear of the captain, and there's some continuity there. But I was sitting on the fence, guys, as to whether or not you needed a clean slate, so there would be no bias coming back into training camp at the beginning of the year. They've gone this direction. I'm okay with either, I guess, is my final answer on the whole projection. I think they're close. I don't bring back Brock Besser. He made 6-5 last year. He's too slow. He's a one-trick pony. He's fine between the hash marks. Tip pass on the power play, continuation below the hash marks in the offensive zone. But tracking all three zones, fellas, it's not enough. I'm not going to $8 million on that. 25 goals last year, minus 25 on the defensive side. So that's not happening. Poos Suter, I am going to look at responding to his great year there. So I think that they're close. Like, they're going to be, but they need some growl in that lineup. They need more accountability in the dressing room. When JT Miller walked out the door, eliminate all the stories and everything else. Let's be honest. When he walked out the door, that team was missing that, weren't they? So I would be overpaying on the market for somebody like a Sam Bennett, perhaps going after someone, I don't know. I don't have all the UFAs in my mind right now, but that type of player that's going to hold people accountable in the room, they need more of that. Now, going to Philly, let me just keep foaming at the mouth here. I think they're still a ways away. I really do. I don't like their goaltending that much, Kep. I think they're going to have to shore that up. They do have some great young players on the horizon. But Rick Tocchet, there's history there. There's accountability as an ex-flyer. He's proven what he turned over a Leaf in Vancouver, built a culture there that did not exist. They were chasing that for a long time. So I think that he'll get them there sooner than later. But on balance right now, they would have to overshoot their trajectory to be a playoff team next year for me.
So I want to talk a little bit about playoff lineups and how tough it is for young guys, all these kids you're talking about, to be involved, to get in the lineup. You're looking at Florida, who doesn't put Sam McKee in. I think he played one game in this series. Ryan Leonard is playing for Washington, but it takes a pretty special type of guy in the first year or two of your career to even be relevant in playoffs.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. It's the hardest time of year, and depending where you came from, so you talk about Leonard, He was the captain at the World Juniors, best player, most valuable player at the World Juniors, goes back to college. He's one of those Hobie Baker type finalists, but it's a heavy lift, fellas. You know that at this time of year. The good thing about Leonard is that B game that he has, that heaviness, that he's in the trenches. So he doesn't necessarily have to handle it a lot to impact the game. That's similar to Matthew Knies, right? Like when Matthew Knies arrived in Toronto, you know what he does? He's got that secondary game that if he's not producing offense, he's capable. Sam McKee is the exact opposite. So he comes out of Michigan, goes to the minors for a little bit. I didn't think he played poorly when he got in the lineup here, to be honest with you. I thought it was a unique element they had. He's got a little bit more burst. He's definitely got that offensive look to his game. But the Florida Panthers have a recipe, and they don't need to have that in the lineup because the recipe appears to be on the cusp of wearing down the opponent. So that makes it even harder for that guy in his skill set because he doesn't necessarily have the Leonard B game to earn minutes in playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Books, just want to switch gears to the Winnipeg Jets and the incredible season that they've had, and yet if they find a way to go quietly in this series against Dallas, is this just going to be a Connor Hellebuyck story? What else have you seen out of Winnipeg that spreads out, for a better word, using blame?
Yeah, no, I don't know how I can't portray it exactly like that. I have to say it. I really felt like the Winnipeg Jets the other day were close to the best version of themselves on the road, a road game in the playoffs. I did. It wasn't that Hellebuyck was terrible, but he was clearly out goaltended by Ottinger in the other end. 3 goals. You got to score. They generated something like 72 shots on goal, shot attempts on net. Those stats mean absolutely nothing to me, by the way, unless they're getting inside and battling for secondaries and stuff like the perimeter stuff. I wish we could that stat could go by the wayside because it doesn't matter. I want to know about all the quality. But having said that, yeah, it's been like that, guys. And in the NFL, you need your star quarterback to be the best guy. If the Toronto Raptors don't have Kawhi Leonard back in the day, it doesn't happen. And in hockey, the goaltender, he has the ability to be the difference maker one way or the other. That's the job they signed up for. Hellebuyck, to me, has not been good enough. I think he's going to admit that. He probably will continue to admit that. They could turn this around. But let's also give some credit to the Dallas Stars. They're similar a little bit. They're different, but they're similar in terms of coming at you in ways like the Florida Panthers. They're a real good hockey team, and they're a lot to handle. And they're only getting better now with Heskin returning to the lineup.
So, Books, we were going to talk about this. We got talking about other stuff. So, where do we sit for the Stanley Cup? Like, you're through the second round. All the chaos around one has kind of died down. Do we have a favorite at this point?
Boy, oh boy, I thought the Edmonton Oilers were dead to rights. I really did in the LA series.
Me too.
Yeah, I thought they let them off the mat. They just lost their structure. They couldn't get it done for the entirety of the series, LA. And you see what's happened to follow to that since then. Edmonton the other night against Vegas, that start, fellas, that first 10 minutes of that game might have been the quickest, most engaged hockey I've ever seen the Edmonton Oilers play. Think about it. They were running over the goalie. They were tracking up and down. So what I'm trying to tell you is that the goaltending still scares the you-know-what out of me at any given moment. But at the same time, what's going on in front of them, it brings me pause. I don't know how Edmonton can be beat right now. That's how I feel in the West.
I'm with you. I appreciate Rantanen, and I appreciate the Dallas Stars being up 3-1. But as far as the look right now as a team that will take no for an answer, it's the Edmonton Oilers. And to me, the biggest reason why I didn't have them where I thought they could get to is Ekholm. And now there's talk about him coming back in the next series. And if they do get him even at 60% or 65%, will take them to another level. But they have the it factor for me right now.
That's well put. That's absolutely well put. They have the it factor. They're feeling it. It's like a giant snowball rolling down Mount Everest. They're really feeling it right now. And in the East, honestly, I know it's right in front of us, but the Florida Panthers are starting to look like they might not get beat again. And they might try. Toronto could come back.
Yeah, I hear you.
They got home ice advantage, best 2 out of 3. I get it, but Listen, Bourne, remember last week I was texting you. Like I was in Florida when we signed Bobrovsky, okay? And we had good days and bad days with Bob. Good Bob, bad Bob. And on the bad days, because remember when Samsonov was here, guys? He's 6'2" and a bit, but he played small. He was so active in his crease, a lot of fast twitch, unnecessary movement. Bobrovsky, if you look at some of the goals he allowed at the beginning of the series and his crease composure, he was a lot like that. He was far too busy. Fast forward to the other day, remember that backdoor feed to Matthews on the flank? He not only came across, and now I'd like to see Auston get that to the net quicker, maybe a bobble, it doesn't matter. But my point is that Bobrovsky didn't go outside the post. He was inside it, had time to stand up to make a glove save.
Yeah.
He's looking like a brick wall.
Like catching flies.
It just looks like, they look like they're about to wear everybody out, and they're coming to town feeling real good about themselves.
Sammy didn't like that. It's funny. We could look at last year's conference
you
final.
just killed Sammy, by the way.
It was Edmonton, Dallas, Florida. You may be looking at one team different from the year before there. Washington or Carolina. Carolina surprise you that they're got the Caps on the ropes?
Yeah, they have surprised me. They have. They're relentless, right? They keep coming. Their coach he coaches a great style for what he has to work with there. And this is interesting because there is a path to the Carolina Hurricanes playing the Dallas Stars somehow here. And that would be fascinating if that ever happened. But I just don't see out of that series, again, them coming through. If it ends up being Florida, I'll put it this way. If the Leafs get through, I think that matchup is more attractive for Carolina or Washington if they come back. But I don't think Florida's attractive to anybody if they get through this series as well, and if they're relatively healthy. Because this team, like, they get guys suspended, they poke you in the eyeball, they do whatever it takes, and it doesn't take them off their game plan ever. It's fascinating to watch. But Carolina, I feel like nobody's really watching, but they're sneaky good right now for sure.
Mm-hmm. Can Vegas extend at all here, or is this thing over?
Over.
Okay.
Over.
All right.
It might be over in the next swing here. It's fascinating to me how Draisaitl got moved to the line with Podkolzin and Kapanen, and how they were shutting down Eichel. Now, Jack Eichel, by the way, has had a fascinating year. He would have been on my ticket for the Selke. That's how good he's been in all three zones. He's totally flipped the script. But I see a rattled Vegas team. I see them engaging after whistles. McNabb looked like he wanted to fight everybody in the arena early in the game the other night. Aiden Hill's looking like Binnington jumping out of his crease, all that stuff. Not that I blame him. I'm all for it. Don't get me wrong. But I'm just saying that they're in their heads. And I don't see that's going to be a comeback on the horizon.
Well, Books, you took the sail right out of Sammy, but we still appreciated you coming on.
Hey, Sammy, at least I haven't seen any Owen Sound Attack guys signing up to go play at the University of Michigan next year, like it seems like the rest of the CHL is doing.
Yeah, thank God.
Oh, that's good.
Thank God. Maybe they just don't have enough good ones. Anyways, let's move on.
Books,
thanks, buddy.
Enjoy the games tonight.
All right, boys. Keep your phones on. I'll be blowing you up.
Yeah.
All right, pal. Let's chat soon.
Pro Hockey Group, former NHL scout, and Sportsnet's finest right there.
Mm-hmm.
Love that guy, except what he said.
Yeah. See, I loved Draisaitl with Podkolzin and Kapanen. Why? Like, I love that. Switch it up. Like, have different looks. It's okay. Marner, Matthews with Lorentz and Yarncroc. Give me something. Change it up.
Yeah, hey, listen, I am the foremost beater of that drum throughout the regular season. Matthews, you'll forget, a lot of people may not remember last year, it was Domi and Bertuzzi were his line mates in the playoffs.
Is anybody
he can drive a line?
Is anybody on the Leafs going to have a shift like Kapanen did? If Kapanen played like that on the Leafs, he might have stayed.
Ceiling is high. Like,
he
can do some
He's
things.
a very talented
He
guy.
was running around.
Yeah.
Like, he was not just
fast, can be physical.
hammering guys.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
All right.
Oh, it's too close.
Sam's nervous.
I'm really nervous.
A reminder, Florida and Toronto Maple Leafs, 7 p.m. Eastern, Sportsnet, CBC, Oilers, Vegas Golden Knights, 9:30 Eastern, Sportsnet, CBC. Is there any reason not to watch? Any? The answer?
Crippling anxiety?
No.
Okay. Couch
No.
time. It's couch time.
Enjoy it, and we're back tomorrow. If you get a chance, give us a ratings and review. We'd love to hear from you. Enjoy your games. Have a great night, everybody.